hormones are the real big magic. A few nanograms of a hormone can turn a baby calf into a Belgian bull on a diet of grass. Hormones can put a beard on a woman or give a man tits. They can take a skinny man and turn him into Hercules reborn. But the changes are not just physical. The right hormonal profile, and I'm not just talking about testosterone, can turn an underachieving brain-fogged man into a beacon of light and success in his community. The question is, how does a man achieve the ideal hormonal profile? The mistake many scientists make is that they take a reductionist approach. That is, they speak of the various hormones to optimize in isolation without looking at the whole. This approach is doomed to failure when you take these theoreticals and try to put them into action. I will tell you the story of the magic elephant of Nepal to drive this point home. You may think that you've heard the story, but you haven't heard the secret ending. The king of Nepal brings his magic elephant to the village of the blind. The blind men naturally want to examine this wondrous creature. One man, the first who gets there, says, "Behold, the elephant is like a python, strong but flexible," as he holds the trunk. And the other says, "No, sir, the elephant is like a pillar, rigid and mighty," as he has his arms wrapped around the leg. The third man says, "Are you all fools? Clearly, the elephant is like a spear, the mighty curved thunderbolt of Lord Indra himself." You may have heard this first part of the story, but not what comes next. The wise old elephant, who had been patient all along, bellows, "You are all fools. I am the mighty elephant, king of beasts. I am the python, the pillar, and the spear. I am also a rope, a fan, and a stone wall. Even if you could comprehend all of these, you would not truly understand me. Allow me to roam freely in nature, to do as I please, to meet my tribe, to meet my wife and calves. Then you may begin to understand. When I'm here, brought as a prisoner against my will, even the mighty king who does have the eyes to see cannot understand what I am and what I can be." The elephant, of course, is correct. It is not sufficient to understand the parts of a system to understand the whole. It's not even sufficient to understand how the parts are interconnected. In fact, you must step back and watch the system behave and go towards its goals, and so it is with the hormone engine. You must step back to understand the whole. In this course, I have an ambitious goal: to present to you a unified field theory of the hormone engine in men. I want to give you the whole elephant. Not just that, but I also want to teach you how to ride the elephant. That is, how to harness the hormone engine to take you where you want to go and to crush any obstacle that comes your way. If you are living beneath your ability, if you don't have clarity, energy, and follow through in order to achieve your dream lifestyle, it just means you don't have the right hormone profile. That's what's holding you back. It's not your background, it's not your parenting. All of that is secondary to the hormone profile. I know exactly how this feels because I've spent years in the dungeons of the biology department trying to earn a PhD to impress my parents and to gain status. I spent years in brain fog and confusion. I was broke, I was depressed, and I lost the girl of my dreams because I didn't have the mental frame or mindset that I have now. Most people don't know this, but mindset is downstream of the hormone profile. Recently, I asked you, what would make an unstoppable entrepreneur? You said creativity, confidence, risk-taking, impulse control, unshakable pain tolerance. But where did these really come from? I could have saved years of my life if I knew what I know now. Our hormone profile shapes our actions, and our actions shape our hormone profile. This is a feedback loop, a vicious cycle. Losing gives you a hormone profile that makes you lose more. This can quickly become an iron cage with no escape. But the opposite is also true. Winning gives you a hormone profile that makes you win more. Instead of an iron cage, you have an iron train engine that gains momentum with every yard. The aim of this course is to help you turn your hormone engine on so that it can take you wherever you want to go. For me, my dream was freedom. Just freedom, man. Freedom to travel where I please, travel to work when I please, the freedom to associate with whom I wanted to. Location freedom, time freedom, and relationship freedom. That was my deepest and dearest objective for so many years. The sooner you fix your hormone engine, the more time you will have to reap the rewards of doing so. In this course, I will share a decade of bio-research that I have tested on men just like yourself. This video will serve as a reference and as a toolkit which will help you gain an asymmetric advantage over other men. But only if you make the choice to act on it. Remember, we all make choices, but at the end, our choices make us. Most people don't know this, but we go through two puberties in our life. One is in our late teens or early 20s, but really that's the second one. The first puberty is when you are still an unborn infant in your mother's womb. You get a massive testosterone spike during this phase. The strength of this testosterone boost is actually phenomenal. Every baby starts off looking basically female, actually. It's this testosterone boost, it changes that. It causes the formation of the balls and the dick. It literally is what makes you male in the first place. You can actually check this right now if you got a sufficient boost as a baby or not. Place your palm flat on the tabletop and see if your ring finger is longer than your index finger. Bigger the difference, the more of a testosterone spike you received as a baby. This weird ratio of the lengths of your index and ring fingers is actually correlated to athletic performance and even aggression in males. If you do the same test on a woman, you'll find that there's actually no difference between the lengths of the ring finger and the index finger. And this makes sense because women did not receive that legendary testosterone boost. Here's another test to check if you have enough free testosterone in your bloodstream right now. If you're below the age of 40 and you don't wake up with a boner most days, you're either chronically stressed, under-recovering, or possibly have low free testosterone, or more likely a combination of the three. Now, why would you not get the full testosterone boost as a baby? It's either genetics, or it's the mother's health, or it's because of xenoestrogens, toxins that have found their way into our food and water that mimic the female hormone system. Now, this is not news to you, so I will not dwell on it for long. You already know this, that testosterone rates are in free fall. You already know that sperm counts and fertility rates in most countries are an existential level threat. But what you may not know, or what you may not have realized, is that this is not a new phenomenon. Even before the advent of xenoestrogens, most of human society is manufactured to control testosterone. Laws, customs, and religions are all built to regulate and channel testosterone. However, today we are more aware of this than ever before, and we have the tools to chart our own destiny. Let us discuss these tools and the underlying mechanisms at this time. Testosterone makes effort feel good. You've likely heard this before. Here's what you have not heard. Feeling good about effort makes testosterone. If you study the hormone engine long enough, you will see some patterns. One of the patterns which I've seen is that which causes a result is also caused by the result. Here's an example from the great neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky that will make things clear for you. You've heard that if you win at sports, you'll get a huge testosterone spike. Not so clear. When you dig in, it actually becomes much more interesting. In the 90s, they looked at testosterone levels of men who were participating in a marathon. Yes, the winner had a spike of testosterone, but a minor one. The guy who came 73rd had a much bigger spike. So it's confusing. What's going on? Turns out that the guy who came first did 3 minutes worse than his best time, so he didn't feel like a winner. And the guy who came 73rd, he just aimed to be in the top 100, so that the fact that he made 73rd was actually a huge win for him. In other words, perception and testosterone have a two-way connection. You've probably heard of testosterone being used in a hierarchy, as in the top male in a hierarchy has more testosterone, the bottom male has the least. And this is taken to mean that if you increase testosterone, then your position in the hierarchy would increase. But this is not true. Let's say there are 5 chimps and they formed a hierarchy. If you took the middle chimp, chimp number 3, and you shot him full of testosterone, he would not magically take the number 1 spot. In fact, he would continue to cling on to the number 3 spot even more strongly. In other words, he would actually be more subservient to number 1 and number 2. But not just this, he would also be more tyrannical to chimps number 4 and 5. So put it another way, if you were a normie to begin with, then increasing testosterone just would make you a turbo normie. Testosterone on its own does not make you a winner. It's like money. Money doesn't make you a winner. It's like Andrew Tate, of all people, said, dorks who made their millions from cryptocurrency just became turbo dorks. All testosterone does, it turns up the volume on the personality traits that already exist. That is why in my cohort systems, we employ a novel technique that targets multiple hormone systems in parallel with testosterone. Since we are not going for a testosterone boost as such, we're going for comprehensive transformation. Sapolsky gives this funny anecdote that if you pumped a group of Buddhist monks full of testosterone, then all of them would aggressively compete to see who performed the most random acts of kindness. This is because all testosterone can do is amplify competition within existing frameworks and amplify behaviors also within existing personality frameworks. Speaking of competition, most males of any mammalian species don't have sex, let alone have kids. Yes, testosterone is predictive of sexual success. Especially in elephant, seals, and antlered animals, the correlation is striking. In fact, males will tear off each other's balls in a bid to win the fight, essentially. Nature is brutal, and the brutality of nature is always just an inch beneath the surface of human society. Testosteronized males forage further. They fight harder and endure much more punishment in order to get what they want. But it's not just that. They also seek more novelty. That is, not only do they fight harder for what they want, they also want more to begin with. And if you don't relate with this behavior pattern, it's just a matter of turning on your hormone engine. Until you do, you don't truly know what it is that you are capable of. By the way, it's not just necessarily competition that boosts testosterone. Collaboration also boosts testosterone just as well. In fact, I would say that the ideal case is belonging to a collaborative group that is in competition with other groups. So this could be in a sports setting where you are in a team who is competing against other teams, or even in a military setting. Collaboration for the sake of competition is the greatest social game possible. So find your tribe and then defeat other tribes, a tale as old as time. Build a business. In that process, you will build a team, and together you are competing against other businesses. Of course, building a business is just one example. The key here is to find something that you can actually see yourself doing and enjoying. Here's the easiest way to do it. Just join any fitness community, and running, dancing, climbing, skating, table tennis, chess. Could literally be any of these things, it doesn't matter. And if you can't think of anything, all that means is you got to try things until something clicks. Your health depends on it. Collaboration and competition are the best testosterone supplement. I've already mentioned that testosterone makes effort feel good, but the question is, how do you leverage this? It comes down to how the body interprets a stressor. The same person who's afraid of heights might voluntarily get into a roller coaster. The crazy thing is, the brain activation pattern in both cases would be the exact same. That is to say, excitement and terror have the same activation pattern in the brain, except, of course, for one key brain area, the amygdala. The amygdala maintains the stress threshold. That is, the amygdala decides whether a stress is excitement or if it's terror. And guess where the highest concentration of testosterone receptors in the brain is? The amygdala. If testosterone is high, the amygdala increases this stress threshold, meaning that you need to be in a really, really bad situation in order to feel stressed. If testosterone is low, then the stress threshold is low. So even a mundane stress would feel terrifying. Naturally, higher testosterone means that you're likely to take more risks and do cool shit because you're no longer afraid. Here's the paradox. Testosterone causes you to pursue more pain in search of reward, but also dulls the pain. So it is the case that you can endure more, but it doesn't even feel like you're enduring more because it almost becomes fun. So Tim Ferriss has this question that he likes to ask when he's confronted with a difficulty. What would this look like if it was easy? The question I prefer to ask is, what would this look like if it was fun? It's a very powerful question to ask if you are an entrepreneur or a pre-entrepreneur. But it's not so simple, because in this mechanism, we see another feedback loop. Testosterone causes action, and action causes victory. And victory generates testosterone. But also, low testosterone causes fear. Fear causes inaction. Inaction causes failure. And failure leads to low testosterone. It's one of those things where to he who has, more will be given, and to he who has not, more will be taken. This is a vicious cycle that exists and must be broken out of by force. To do this, you need action and you need knowledge. So let's get into the tactical stuff. What biomarkers would you need to get tested to see if your health is on track as a man? For testosterone, we would need at least two metrics: total testosterone and free testosterone. Most of the testosterone in your body is not freely floating, it's not in an activated state. In fact, only 2% of the total testosterone is freely available. And that's ballpark numbers, obviously. The rest of testosterone is bound tightly to SHBG, which is the spherical protein, which is sex hormone binding globulin. As the name suggests, it doesn't just bind to testosterone, it binds to all sex hormones like DHT and to a lesser extent estrogen. To be clear, SHBG is not the enemy. It's not that SHBG is trapping the testosterone and preventing it from acting. It's actually a transporter. It's a wonderful molecule. In fact, we need SHBG to transport the testosterone across the blood-brain barrier in the brain to carry out its functions on the amygdala. However, stress, xenoestrogen exposure, or heavy metal toxicity can cause SHBG to bind to too much testosterone. If your free testosterone is less than 2%, then you need to take action to start liberating this bound testosterone. So what can you do? Boron supplementation can help with this. Just make sure that you pair the boron with iodine because boron is a goitrogen. Quick note, if you're trying to calculate the percent of free testosterone in your lab report, here's something that you'll run into. Because the concentration of total testosterone is so much greater than that of free testosterone, most lab reports will report the scores in different units. So make sure you do your unit conversion correctly before you calculate a percentage. Another useful biomarker to get would be SHBG itself. If you're in the 55-ish range, you're good. If not, then SHBG optimization comes first. SHBG is downstream of insulin, estradiol, and thyroid. So you'd want to look at those biomarkers first for clues. Now the thing is, testosterone on its own doesn't tell us much about the overall health of the body. It's actually a lagging indicator. So I have created a custom blood work panel of more than 52 biomarkers, including testosterone and free testosterone, through our industry partner, Alta Labs. I have linked this in the description. It's the most cost-effective panel of its kind. You can verify this for yourself, but unfortunately, it's only available in the US. If you join Crusade Cohort, interpretations of these blood tests will be included as a part of your membership. I will personally go through your results with you. Now, what gives me the credibility to do this? I'm not a medical professional, but I do hold a certification in functional blood chemistry. Now let's get back to the big question. What testosterone range should you aim for? Here's my stance. Don't aim for a number, aim for a percentage increase. The reason I say it's better to aim for a percentage increase rather than a number to hit is because everybody's receptor sensitivity is different. So one man's 400 might actually beat another man's 600. So what are some benchmarks? There are no standard industry benchmarks for men who are trying to actively increase their testosterone. What I can share with you is what I've seen from my own practice. If you're below 200, you can see the biggest boost. You can actually get a 2x increase in testosterone just because there's more room to grow, right? If you're in the middle range of 200 to 600 nanograms per deciliter, you can expect to see a 50 to 100% increase. If you're already above 600, you're already doing great. You can aim for a 20 to 50% increase. I will of course share with you the tactical advice on how to do this, but first a word from our sponsors. I'm the sponsor. So I'll keep this quite short and I'll keep this to the point. I am a specialist in only one thing. I specialize in getting guys out of a rut to move them towards their dream goals. This is my full-time job. I love doing it and I've gotten quite good at it. I've helped more than 10 guys just like you achieve their dream transformation in just 110 days. This was me right after surgery. I had lost a lot of muscle over the 2 years. I was determined to get it back. And this was me after joining Cohort 0. I have a long ways to go, no doubt about that, but I have the systems to ensure my success. Alex had one goal. He wanted to join the army, but they would not let him because he was overweight. 3 months into Cohort 0 and he's reached the lowest weight he's had in 5 years. Jaden had one goal. He wanted to get strong. In 3 months, he won gold in his powerlifting competition. Kuba had 2 goals: to overcome his binge eating habits and to start a business. 3 months into Cohort 0 and he's in the shape of his life and just signed his first 3 clients. Now, Cohort 0 has just ended, but Cohort 1 is under construction. If you're a man with big dreams, then I can help you make these dreams into a reality. Applications to Cohort 1 close in about 5 days at the time of this recording. I'd also say that 50% of the slots have already been claimed during the pre-launch, but not to worry, this is not a first come first serve basis. This is based on fit. I will link to my website in the description. There's a short video on there that explains the mechanism of how this all works. You could potentially take that mechanism and try to apply it by yourself. That's fine by me. Transformation is what I'm after. It contains some very interesting frameworks that are outside the scope of this video. It describes the interesting and very important interaction of the hormone profile with the big 5 personality traits. This is the cutting edge of my research. So you're going to want to watch this to get a sneak peek of what's coming to give you that massive advantage. Now let's get back into tactics. So when it comes to the high leverage action steps to increase testosterone, what do you need to do? I asked this question to you, my audience, and you answered correctly. Basically, it's three things: recovery, exercise, and nutrition. If you think I'm going to give you some crazy new hack like icing your ball sack or taking some scam supplement, then you are going to be disappointed. The hardcore truth that nobody wants to hear is there's only three big levers on testosterone. It's nutrition, exercise, and recovery. Then you have three smaller levers, which is sunlight, social status, and sexual success. If you're expecting some kind of crazy esoteric hack method, then you are looking for entertainment and not outcomes. On this channel, there is no entertainment. There's only outcomes. Excellence is the fundamentals done 1,000 times. That's what we care about. That's what I care about, and that's what you should care about as well. But then again, if it was so simple, then why do so many men not have the results? Why do they not have the energy, the physique, and the sex drive that they want? There is a secret hiding in plain sight that I will now reveal. I have drawn a triangle of health on this piece of paper: exercise, nutrition, and recovery. Now I have a question for you. How many elements make up this system? Think about it for a second. If you answered 3, you are mistaken. There are 6. Health is a system, and each of these connections too is a part of the system. Each of these big 3 interact and co-interact with each other. If you add in the small 3, quickly it becomes a web, and this is the web that men will find themselves stuck in. The elements of health are simple, but the interactions are complex. Let me give you a real-life example to drive this point home. Imagine a normal guy who looks a little bit chubby as he gets to his 30s. He cannot any longer see his abs, and the girls aren't checking him out as much as they did when he was in college. So what he wants to do is quite straightforward. He wants to lose some fat, he wants to gain some muscle, he wants to get back to his college physique. Great! So he starts going to the gym, and what does he find? He finds that he's hitting the weights, he's putting in the reps, but doesn't look any better week after week. What he doesn't realize is that his increased calorie burn is actually causing him to snack more. So his benefits of his exercise interact with his nutrition, and not in a good way. In the end, he doesn't lose any fat because the benefits of exercise are counterbalanced by his downfall in nutrition. Learning from this, our guy says, okay, let's start with the diet instead. Now he cuts his calorie intake, but this tanks his metabolic rate. Now his baseline metabolic rate is low. He doesn't have the energy anymore to exercise. Now he's feeling stuck, feeling like shit, so he goes back to his old habits. They say old habits die hard, but why is this? It's because old habits have a feedback loop. Now the third time, he tries to combine exercise and diet, but the stress from his lifestyle change is causing effects on his sleep. And we know that fat is lost when you sleep. Muscle is gained when you sleep. So it ends up just looking more or less the same week after week, and he gives up, assuming that he is too old to make any substantial change in his life. Now, this story is hypothetical, right? It sounds like a hypothetical because it is. But some variation of this story is what's keeping you stuck, and that is not a hypothetical. Some feedback loop is responsible for keeping you where you are. This goes beyond fitness, by the way. There are feedback loops that are keeping your bank account looking exactly what it's looking like. There are feedback loops that are keeping you single. I'm serious. So think about this. If you are stuck at anything in life, it means that there's a positive feedback loop which is keeping you there. If you're a guy who's bad with women, probably means that you have a mindset that's making you bad with women, and your being bad with women reinforces that mindset. So this is an example, of course, of another feedback loop that keeps you stuck where you are. So whenever you are stuck, you must investigate the system structure. So the solution, of course, to something like this would be a systems-based approach, which just so happens to be my specialty. Going back to that hypothetical which I constructed out of nowhere, if you are that chubby guy who's trying to lose some of that chub, you would have to focus on recovery to blunt the cortisol spikes. You'd have to focus on hypertrophy to blunt the insulin spikes. You'd have to focus on stress management to blunt the epinephrine strikes. You'd have to focus on consistency to blunt the dopamine spikes. Hard to say spikes so many times, boys. If it seems complex, it doesn't have to be. You just need the right systems. First, like I said, boys, sleep. It's when you sleep that testosterone is produced, when muscle growth happens, and when the growth hormone is released. Sleep is when fat loss happens. Sleep is when your body height increases, assuming you're in the right age for this. Sleep is when you cash in the efforts made during the day. If you don't get good quality sleep, 8 to 9 hours, you're basically deciding to forego the rewards from the effort that you made during the day. Yes, sleep optimization is a big topic, but let's hit it with the Big 5 analysis. The Big 5 rule states that 90% of the results come from the top 3 actions. So what are the top 3 actions that lead to good sleep? Action 1 is the light environment. You need to fix the light environment if you're going to get good sleep. So how do you do this? You are going to wear a silk sleep mask when you sleep. This will keep out the light from your eyes. Second is to get yourself these blue light blockers. Now, I'm not an affiliate. I don't make any money by promoting this company, but I found a lot of benefit from having these. So not all blue light blockers are created equal. And this is the final boss of blue light blockers. Yes, it looks weird. Yes, it looks like something out of Mission Impossible. No, I would not wear it in public, but it works. It's shaped in this weird way, and it's shaped such that light doesn't get in from the sides. And it's super dark tinted, and it's completely red. So nothing but red wavelengths get through. High leverage investment. Shout out to Elijah from the Austin Growth House for putting me on these. Now the third is optional, though recommended, is to get programmable lights in your home, like the Philips Hue lights. And what these will do is you can program them to turn red at a time that you set. So I've set mine to turn red at 6 p.m. Works great. It reminds me that I need to stop working, to wind down, and focus on recovery mode. Action number 2, nutrition. No food 3 hours prior to bed. Food right before sleeping messes with recovery. Also, I would say no water 3 hours prior to bed. Now, this is not an exact science, but it helps me because if I don't follow this rule, I almost always end up waking up to go to the bathroom. And I hate this because it disrupts my sleep, right? So, food and water, you need to increase the time between you consume food and water and your actual bedtime to improve your recovery. Action number 3, temperature. Take a quick shower before you sleep. It can literally be less than 60 seconds. Hell, it can be just 30 seconds. And just expose yourself to water. You don't even have to, use soap and shampoo and do a whole hygiene routine. This is not for hygiene, it's more so for the body temperature reset. It's a thermal reset. So you've probably heard this before, that you need your body temperature to cool down for better recovery during sleep. Powerful. All you gotta do is step into the shower, blast yourself with cold water. It doesn't have to be actually cold water. It can actually be a warm shower as well, because regardless of hot shower or cold shower, the surface of the body will actually lose heat through evaporation of the water. So this will cause a cascade of blood flow changes that will allow your body to quickly adapt and change its state. So hear me out and understand this carefully. A shower, no matter what the temperature is, allows you to be more adaptable thermally. So either from wakeful to sleepy or sleepy to wakeful. So I actually take 2 quick showers during the day. One in the morning to go from sleepy to alert, and once an hour prior to bed to go from alert to sleepy. If you implement just these 3 techniques, you're going to achieve 90% of sleep optimization. In the cohorts, how we implement sleep optimization at the expert level is by giving everybody an Aura ring. This way I have minute-by-minute control, or I should say access, to your biodata. Pair the fact that in the cohort I have access also to your nutrition and your exercise. Using this, I can triangulate the perfect health transformation for you. Now going to the third key aspect of health, which is exercise. There's research that shows that lifting heavy in the 5 to 8 rep range can boost testosterone receptor sensitivity. There's also research showing that I don't give a fuck. The truth is, doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is intensity, progressive overload, and consistency. So consistency is a real king, because you can train intensity and progression if you first build consistency. And where does consistency come from? Consistency is downstream of enjoyment. So find a workout style that works for you and just stick with that. The best training modality is the one which you enjoy. Make it fun, make it social, make it intense. Personally, the gym, just standard weightlifting, makes the most sense for me because I can see the fastest results. The past 2 years have been a difficult time for me health-wise. I took 2 joint injuries back in 2022, at the end of 2022, and my health issues flared up out of nowhere in 2023. I had severe breathing issues to the point I couldn't even breathe with my nose at all. The most I could do in the gym, because I was completely out of energy, my testosterone profile was destroyed, my hormone profile was destroyed, was maybe 10 to 20 minutes on the treadmill. Then I had to get surgery done, which again put me out of the gym, because of course if you lift weights after a surgery, you can rupture blood vessels. Now the final aspect of health, which is nutrition. Now this can be a huge topic. We can talk about the gut microbiome, we can talk about parasites, we can talk about so much more. But this would be its own course. Instead, I will focus again on using the big three rule. So what's the big three on nutrition? Number one is to avoid seed oils. This rule automatically changes food choices. It means that you choose the grilled chicken at Chick-fil-A instead of the fried. See, you don't have to be rigid with this, right? Now, I'm not saying Chick-fil-A is where you should go to get healthy food. I'm just saying that if you're going out as well, you can make better choices. This is one of those high leverage rules that have huge downstream effects. Now, you may not be able to eliminate seed oils completely, but you don't have to. You don't need perfection to see results. You just need to aim at minimization. Simple rule, high leverage. The second rule, rule number 2, is the carrot and egg rule. I used to have this habit of snacking a lot between meals. If I'm doing research for a video or working on business, whenever I get stuck on something, whenever I get frustrated, I would make a beeline to the fridge to grab something. Now, I've tried using discipline and willpower to stop this behavior, but I always had mixed results. Now, I have this simple rule that I always follow, which is I can snack anytime I want, no guilt associated, but I can only snack on carrots or boiled eggs. Now, I like carrots and boiled eggs, but they aren't addicting in the same way as packaged goods generally are. Besides, it's nutritious. You can't go wrong with eating too many eggs or carrots. Well, I mean, you can, but that's very unlikely. Carrots will bind to toxins and remove them from your body. Eggs, of course, eggs are amazing. Eggs are nutrition grenades. So, simple rule, high leverage. Rule number 3, chew your food completely before swallowing. This is an interesting one because it has immediate as well as long-term effects. In the short term, chewing your food longer and waiting for it to be completely mush before swallowing it aids in digestion and, of course, the nutrition absorption, meaning that you're going to get more nutrition per volume of food that you consume. But the long-term benefits are actually the biggest lever. If you chew your food fully, you will reveal the full flavor profile of that food that you're eating. It means that unhealthy food of any kind, packaged goods, or if it's fast food, whatever, will lose its appeal to you. Why? Because as you are chewing this food completely, you're giving your taste buds the time to actually examine what's in the food. So foods that's engineered to be nutritious by adding MSG will no longer be able to play that trick on you because your sense of taste is actually quite good. It just needs time to fully absorb and give that information to the brain. Giving your taste buds time to assess the food makes the food taste bad if it's unhealthy food. And at the same time, actual whole foods like steak and potatoes will not decay in taste as you chew. In fact, new flavors will be unlocked. This single rule will lead to lifelong changes in decision making. I want to mention this before we close out. The knowledge of these tactics are useless without implementation. Put these to work. Make the sacrifices. If you don't sacrifice for your dreams will become the sacrifice.